WIPU Nation, welcome to another Agent Spotlight. Today we're going to be talking to Dana Nesen. I know her name has been out there in the social media world pretty hot and heavy lately, but we wanted to get a little bit intimate with Dana and a little bit unfiltered. So we hope to bring you some good topics and pick Dana's brain on several things. Dana, before we get started, I thought it would be cool. Like, we all know the Instagram Dana, we know the YouTube Dana. Tell us what young Dana was like. Maybe, high school through college. Tell us what young Dana was all about.
Okay. Well, when you said intimate and unfiltered, I was like, where's our wine?
Hey, feel free to pour you a glass. I've got some back here if we need.
It's very interesting that that's the first question that you're asking me, because one of the things I've been working on low key behind the scenes that nobody knows except now is I'm working on developing a keynote and then practicing it, just because eventually I want to go in that direction. I think part of what makes a good keynote is learning about your past and how you got somewhere. And so I'm kind of dissecting my past as we speak, my young self, figuring out what's relevant, maybe what's not relevant, what I'm okay talking about, what I'm not okay talking about. And so yeah, trying to figure out where to begin in that, because I definitely think one of the things that would be important for people to know is I did not grow up with a silver spoon, for sure. My parents divorced when I was 3, and my dad left, and my mom worked 2 jobs, and we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 2 rooms on either side. Me and my sister shared a room, and oftentimes we would come home, and there would be we'd walk into the front door, and the kitchen was right here to the right, and the whole floor would be covered with cockroaches. And my mom would be like, "We can't come in." And I remember sleeping on the couch of some of our friends' houses until my mom was able to find another place for us to go. So I definitely did not grow up with privilege. And part of that, I think, also shaped some of the bad characteristics that formed from there, kind of rebellious. And I think that's kind of where I developed control, because I felt so out of control growing up that I think I really craved that. And that's probably why I crave control today, and I thrive in positions of power and creativity. And that just kind of took a wrong turn. I didn't do well in school. I hated teachers. I hated authority. I never followed the rules. But I never did drugs, and I was never that bad. But I just was a little rebellious. I was a little rebellious. I lied. And in college, I bought papers to turn them in. I just was not a good kid, And
Are we sisters? All 3 of us?
I mean, I can relate to some of those stories for sure.
And one more story for sure. I have a memory of when I was in 5th grade, I was in the Girl Scouts. I don't know how I came up with this, because I only remember a certain part. I would put on my Girl Scout uniform, and I would go door to door in this apartment complex that we lived in to ask for donation money for the Girl Scout trip. And I would just take the money and go buy candy at the liquor store across the street. So
I
have a lot of these stories.
We probably had this same socioeconomic status growing up.
Yeah.
And that story right there reminded me of, maybe they didn't have it in Southern California, but in Kentucky, where I was raised, if your parents made under a threshold of money, you got free lunch. And I filled out the paperwork to get free lunch and didn't tell my parents, and I pocketed $1.25 a day that they were giving me to pay for lunch. But hey, that's an entrepreneur spirit. right out of the gate. So, I mean,
We're going to tell ourselves.
right, right. I mean, you got to think outside the box sometimes when you want a new pair of shoes and your parents aren't going to get it for you.
Right.
So, so that takes you through like college. When was the light bulb switch where, you decided, hey, I'm a new Dana?
Yeah, it really was my first sales job, where I had to start rewiring, because even just my jobs I had throughout college, I always tried to cheat my way through instead of just doing the work the right way. And it wasn't until I met my current husband now, who was my boss, but I didn't meet him that way. But he was my boss at my first sales job, and I couldn't pull anything with him. He would call me out on all of my SHI, and he was the first person that I could not get away with stuff with. And so it was kind of like this mirror moment that I had, where I just had to start rewiring my brain and saying, well, I don't want to lose this relationship. I don't want to lose this job. So maybe I better figure out how to do things the right way. And that was
Right.
the moment. And yeah, so that was like 2004. And so I've been doing things the right way for 21 years.
Okay. Hey, I mean, you've almost paid your penance at this point, but a lot of people think, when they look at a Dana, or, I could throw other names out there in the industry, but it's like they see an overnight success story, and everyone that I've spoken to says it's like a 10-year overnight success story. So like when Yoel and I started this brand, I remember we were doing our best to get to 250 members.
Yeah.
And we're not there yet. And we're talking like we're a month and a half in, and Yola's over here saying we need 1,000 members. And I'm like, whoa there, killer. Like, let's scale her back a little bit. And then it was like overnight, everything just changed. It was, you probably had moments in your sales career where it was kind of the same thing. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But why final expense telesales? Did you start out face to face?
Never. No, I've never been in face-to-face sales since I started selling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I've always done telesales for 21 years.
Wow.
How long you've been doing this is 21 years in telesales. God bless you.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in how did that even become a thing?
When I got my first sales job?
In insurance, yeah.
Well, in insurance. So I've been in
Yes.
insurance since 2000.
Okay.
Because I've only ever done telesales. That's only what I wanted to do. So when I was getting ready to make a career shift, it was telesales. There was no other option. So
Nice.
at that point, it was, what's the widget that's I'm going to offer via telesales, and what's going to give me the best opportunity? And the widget happened to be life insurance. It wasn't, I wanted to sell life insurance, and how am I going to sell it? It was the other way. It was, what am I going to sell over the phone? And I found final expense.
Okay, that's interesting. Like, one of the reasons that I've really started following you is because of AJ. But the other thing, and you've mentioned this a decent amount in your videos lately,
Okay.
and I want you to touch on this. Yoel and I, in the position that we're in, we've tried to collaborate with a lot of power players, and we've had pushback. And one thing that I love that you do is you haven't been a gatekeeper. Like, you've freely given information away, and you've done that without expectation of what you get in return.
Sure.
Where did that spirit come from?
That's a good question. I think I've been asked this question before, and I don't remember how I answered it, but I remember.
We're gonna fact check, so make sure it's right.
Fact check. Facebook fact checkers. I remember when I first got my license, and I turned to YouTube to get information, and the two people that kept popping up continuously was Cody Askins and David Duford. And even though I didn't end up using a ton of their stuff, I just knew, like, I just kind of instinctively knew that if I wanted to grow a team, that I had to be there. And I did kind of sit and think about how I was going to differentiate myself and what value could I bring so that I could attract people. And it just teaching. I just thought teaching was the way to go, because a lot of the videos that I would continuously see in my first year, I just thought was crap. It's like, this is terrible. I can't believe agents are going to YouTube to find this type of sales training. That's my niche. I'm going to be different. I'm going to tell people that's not the way to sell. This is a better way. And so I started a YouTube channel at the beginning of my second year in insurance. And yeah, still at that point, nobody even knew who I was. Not a clue, right? Nobody knew who I was, that I was with Lincoln. I was begging my friends and family to follow me on YouTube so that I could start building a little bit of an algorithm. And
Yes.
it took me 1 full year. So I think I started it January of 2022. By January of 2023, I had 1,000 subscribers. I got my first 1,000 in 1 year. And I think it was because I had a different value proposition. Then I wasn't just filtering the same old, scripts that everybody else.
Right. Yeah, you were innovating, and you were, I think people neglect to realize that most people learn through failure. Then, you can watch somebody succeed, but until you fail a few times, you don't get it. I'm going to ask one more question. I'm going to let Yola step in because I'm the nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff.
But
That's why I let her go. It's like, yeah, Linda's talking.
I heard somebody say that when you stay in your own lane, you don't have to worry about the traffic. And that's also something I've noticed that you've done quite well, is staying in your lane. You didn't kind of venture out into other things. You were telesales dominant. You didn't, try to pick up all these ancillary products and things like that.
Yeah.
You really, kind of did that. And you just said early Dana lacked some control. And my question that I have written, you can verify it with Yola, is were you always cruise control Dana? Or did you have to work to get there? So I think you might have hit that a little bit. You can hit it a little bit further, but you're just even keel, man. You don't get worked up about anything. You just give your information.
Oh, that's how you perceive me?
I mean, that's YouTube, Dana. That's what I would say. We
So,
probably need to ask your husband, right? He would be the one.
No, not my husband, my work family. So today we're on Google Meet. So I started a Google Meets for our dial room or our work room. So we're all in there. We're all learning, right? Because we're only a couple weeks old and people are still waiting to get contracts.
Right.
So I'm sharing my screen with the CRM dialer, just so they can see like my workflow, and I got stuck somewhere. And so I said, hey, I'm going to get support on, but I still shared my screen, my audio, my whole process. And I was not happy with the direction that he was giving me the support. And I am a very direct person. I really am. And if I'm not getting the answers that I want, I'll say, that's not the answer I was looking for. Please help me this way. Right. And so by the time we were done and I was getting feedback from the team, they were on it. One of the guys was like, I felt like I was watching my parents have an argument. So the point of that is I have been conditioned to learn that the person that throws the biggest temper tantrum is gonna be the one that gets their way. And so I am even keeled to a sense, but if I feel like my agents are being treated unfairly or someone is not meeting my expectations or I need something to be escalated, like it's going to happen. So if that brings any color to like how the direction of my intention there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's aggressive. I would say it's assertive. And I think that's, a really good trait. All these videos that you put up, all the training videos, this is a personal question for me. Do you read the comments?
Oh yeah, I read all the comments and I respond to almost all of them. Just within the last 2 weeks, I've gotten behind because of everything that's going on in my life.
Right.
But up until that point, I've read every single comment and I've responded to almost every single one.
What do you say to the haters?
Thank you for your opinion. I appreciate it. I mean, 100%. So I learned something from Alex Hormozy, because that is a hard lesson for everybody. I don't care how old you are. And one of the things he said, this was what gave me a light bulb moment. He said, most of the people aren't even going to be paying attention to the haters. And if you choose to respond to it and you give it attention, people will then realize that it's happening because you're the one that gave it more attention. So just let
Very true.
Starve it.
this happened in real life to me. Like, and I was able to help someone go through this. There was someone else in the business, a leader in the space, and someone had posted some hate comment under a Facebook post. I never saw it, right? I never saw this hate comment. The next day, this leader posted something about the hate comment, right? Like the whole thing about it. And I was like, I didn't even know. I messaged him and I said, I just want to let you know, I never even saw that comment. I never even know it took place until you posted about it.
Yeah.
And you just brought all this attention to that comment, and that gets people to think, right? I said, so
Yeah.
for what it's worth, you probably didn't even need to do anything, and most people wouldn't have even seen it.
Yep. I mean, we had our own personal controversy with our platform where it was a personal, professional dispute between somebody and they went after our platform. That's when, I had to step up and kind of give it attention to that one time, which is the only explanation I owed was to my community, but it's never been addressed since. And no matter how much I've actually been, slaughtered since then, I don't swing with pigs. Like it doesn't matter. I won't respond to anything. I won't comment on anything. There's just no point in giving my energy to that because it's like haters are going to hate. Listen, I got to do what I'm doing because that's the only way I'm able to, like, nobody's paying my bills at the end of it. And everybody has a different opinion of you. They're always going to have different ways of how they see you, but nobody really sees everything. Right. So why even give it the attention? It's giving highlight to something that's just not even relevant.
It's typically the people who are doing less.
Yeah.
It's like Dana would never come on our platform and say, oh, well, these women, they're horrible,
Mm-hmm.
never. So it's usually the people who are doing less, never the people who are doing more,
Mm-hmm.
that make those kind of comments. You got any questions before I hit her with this next one?
Yeah, I mean, I have followed Dana for a little bit, and I love Dana's like videos. I think you are exceptional with your YouTube channel. So congratulations on all your accomplishments there. I also know that you share a little bit about your personal life. You don't always talk about it a lot, and you do a lot more training and stuff. But I know you have a husband, 2 kids, and 2 dogs, and you live in Southern California. Or 1 dog, sorry. I have 2 dogs. Maybe I'm comparing. And
I
you
have
live in
3.
Southern California. That's another thing. I grew up in Southern California, so we got that in common. But how do you keep it all in balance? Like, you have this thriving career now and all of this that's happening, but you're also a wife and you're a mom, and you've got to be there at soccer practice, and you've got to feed the dog twice a day and take him out for his walk or her walk. Or how do you balance it all as a powerhouse in the industry?
I don't do a very good job. First of
I
all,
love her. All right.
Unfiltered, baby,
a
unfiltered.
couple of stories. I'll share a couple of recent stories. But first of all, if I did not have my husband to do a lot of the things that he does, I would not have this career, because the amount of time and energy and work that I know it's required of me. He takes the kids to school. He picks them up from school. I take my daughter to gymnastics after school. And my husband takes our son to football practice. And for the most part, he does 80% of the heavy lifting when it comes to the kids.
That's awesome.
So first of all, that is a huge help that I know a lot of people may not have.
Mm-hmm.
Even with that said, though, one example that's coming up in 2 days, no, tomorrow. So I scheduled a team meeting for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And this morning I found out, well, I mean, I just had it on the wrong date, that my daughter has a gymnastics competition tomorrow at 8 a.m. in Universal. And I thought it was Saturday. So right now I'm just like, okay, so I sent an email. I was like, well, I'm human, I'm not AI. And so I need someone to take over the meeting, record the meeting, and here's the topics and all of that. So that's just one example of how I don't have it all together. And another example would be last year at some point, I was doing something incredibly important apparently for work. I forgot to pick my daughter up from school.
Oh.
So I'm literally in the middle of something. I get the phone. It has the caller ID of my daughter's school on it. First I see the time. I mean, no, first I see the name and I'm thinking, uh-oh, my daughter's sick. But in like the same millisecond, I see the time and I was supposed to be there 20 minutes ago. So I pick up the phone. I'm so sorry, I'm on my way. Right? So I don't, right? I try really, really hard to balance both of it. But it's not easy.
That's a very unfiltered answer, and I love it because, again, most of the people only see the good side. They want the title, they want the money, they want the accolades, but they don't see all of the stuff that goes on, in the dark or behind closed doors and things like that. And I think that more women need to. So I love that.
There's other sacrifices too, right? Like I will leave the sink full of dishes until nighttime. We do a lot of takeout at night now. Like I used to cook dinner every single night. I prided myself on that before this world of insurance.
Yeah.
And the more I get into it and the higher up that I get, there's some things that I just had to let go of. And I had to be like, okay, we're going to have Chipotle 3 days a week and we're going to be okay. As opposed to, letting go of that control of every part of my life so that I can give what needs my attention the most.
Well, it's healthy. It's really healthy. And I mean, let's face it, not everybody can do everything. Like you said, we're only humans. And I feel like there's a pressure on women to actually accomplish these things with a family and a spouse and, kids. And my mom worked a full-time job and then came home and made dinner and everything. It's like, all right, but we're not in that. We don't do that anymore. We don't have, that's why we have partners. We have partnerships and we need people to take on things in our life so we can actually succeed and thrive.
Yeah, you kind of lead me into that, Yola, because my next question to you was, a lot of times, like women, I feel like have this burden to be better. So I was military, and when I was in uniform, I felt like I had to do more than the guys to make up for my ovaries. And I think that like our grandmothers, I think we're probably all relatively the same age. Our grandmothers, they were to be seen but not heard. And then our mothers, they started getting a voice. And then here we come. And we have the voice now. When you think about like all of the influential women in your life, like, can you name a few of them that were just like looking back now and however many years you've been here, you can kind of give them credit, this person credit for helping you develop your character?
That's a hard question, by the way. I didn't have a lot of strong women. I guess, my mom being a single mom and working 2 jobs, but that's a whole other interview to peel back the layers of relationships between mother and daughter. I think probably some of the tension there is what builds character. Like you want to do things differently than how it was given to you. But I don't have a story of this person or this woman was a leader and a role model in my life. I don't think I had that.
You could have used the safe word right there if you so chose.
Okay.
You could.
All right. I'm okay with being unfiltered.
I love it.
She's a great fit,
So
y'all.
let's go the opposite side. Let's hit it from the opposite side. You didn't have that growing up, and most of the time, I have a guy that's been influential in my life, and he always said, "If you've ever been hungry, you'll never be full." And I was like, "Dang, that's so true," you know. But let's hit it from the other side. Who do you want to influence? When you look and say, "Hey, this is Dana Nesen. This is who I am." Who are you trying to influence?
Probably myself.
Good answer.
Love her.
I
Good
mean,
answer.
I have so much like regret a little bit about the choices that I made growing up as a kid and as a teenager, that I feel like I'm kind of just working so hard right now to be the antithesis of that, and to pave a path. Maybe I want to be that person that I did not have. So
Right.
I think that's probably the best answer I can give you
Yeah.
guys.
Hey, show yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Show yourself some grace.
I mean, I know we're supposed to be wrapping up here soon, but my question to Dana would be, we know where you come from. Obviously, you've got a great track record in the industry. You have done amazing things. What does future Dana look like? Like we already talked about, well, 15-year-old Dana. What is now the platform that you're building? Because you have been able to blow up into this massive success story within our industry. And I think you have a lot of women that look up to you, and you have a lot of ladies that want to hear your story and want to get to know you a little bit better. So what does that look like for you? Are you building a platform just for agents? Or are you building a platform in the in the industry in general? Or what does the future look like for Dana?
I have given this some thought, and I see it going in more than one direction. I definitely want to continue to build my presence on YouTube. So that's definitely going to continue to stay. It's going to change a little bit now that I'm in a new world. But one of the reasons that I aligned myself with Lasting Mark, and it's actually funny, you said, Linda, that I was kind of really good about being in one lane. And I think for the most part, I'll always continue to primarily have that lane of final expense, simplified issue life insurance. But because my circumstance was changed outside of my control, I I I had the opportunity to learn things now that I didn't get the opportunity to learn before. So even though it's not in my near future, Empower Life Group will eventually also have Empower Health Group, Empower Retirement Group. So I will be bringing in different arms and growing the brand. But I've also recognized that there are massive holes in how leaders in this space recruit and lead their teams. And I had a kind of a light bulb moment last night when I was talking to an agent that really has the desire to want to build a team for herself, but she has fear, like big fear, because of all the horror stories that she's heard from other people who have downlines that have left them with debt, and from lots of different IMOs. But as she was telling me these stories, I was asking her questions about things that she saw and things that she was doing and what she tried to do when she brought in agents. And we had a 2-hour conversation. And just in that time, I think I was able to uncover like 4 major things that she should never have done. And so I think I found kind of a little bit of a niche there where I know that I can teach other people how to lead better and not live in the world of reaction. There's so much like proactive stuff that I think there's a hole, especially in this space, that leaders had structure and process and systems, even in an independent world, for agents to come in who have a W-2 mindset, because most of them do. People see much more success, less runoff and roll-up debt, and just more opportunity overall. So I think something in the leadership realm where I'm teaching leaders how to lead, and then expanding my brand into retirement and health. Long answer, sorry.
Oh, no, I love how you said the name of your company is Empower, right?
It's Empower Life Group. Yes.
Empower Life Group. And that's what Yola and I are trying to do with WIPU is offer empowerment to folks without having to worry if they're on our team or anything like that, not being a gatekeeper. Your voice and your willingness to be seen have put you in a position to where just recently you kind of flipped the switch on some things. So most of the time, people that go through what you went through, they're out there handing out resumes, looking for somebody to hire them. And because of everything that you had accomplished prior and your willingness to give without anything in return, you all of a sudden had a long line of people, willing to hire you. Now that the roller coaster ride has ended,
Yeah.
can you tell us how it felt?
I mean, even you just describing that back to me, I have goosebumps on my arms, just reliving that experience, because it really was all of the hours and time and effort and pouring out content into YouTube. I have no idea who's watching. And for that moment to have all of that work then pay back to me in that way was so incredible, because I would have never known. Like, you can't plan for that. My intention to start the channel was not, well, if I ever want to get up in the ladder or do something different, people better know who I am, right? It wasn't like that. So we never know what our circumstances are going to bring. And just from that experience alone, I hope more people get online and create content and let people know who you are, because that's how everybody finds people nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a platform that's building for you. And that's why we started our platform too about a year ago. And we're not as consistent with our content. I mean, I want to be like Dana Nesen with all of our videos. Let me just tell you, you have our kudos. But as we build our brand, and as we bring, we wanted to bring in things, content that's just not filtered to anybody else's lens, that's not going to give anybody else props, that's not going to make some other guy rich, just because women that are coming into this industry deserve to have an unfiltered eye that's just going to give them straight of how how it is and what they should look out for. So thank you for your voice. I mean, we're empowered by you actually sharing and doing that this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think your character is developed to match your calling. And I think maybe that's what happened in your situation is, people ask all the time, would you change anything? And I say no, because I had to go through everything I went through to become the person that I needed to be for the next journey. Would you agree that kind of hindsight, looking back, you probably didn't want to go through that, but is that kind of how you feel at this point?
Of course. I mean, I do have two very honest answers for that. And so, here we go, being unfiltered again.
Let's have it.
I mean, so yes, obviously, like everything that just happened to me really was full circle. And it did kind of feel like a little bit of closure that I have fully closed that chapter. Like, I have proven myself and we can move forward and continue to build. There is, however, I do have another side of me that always wonders, if I had other circumstances growing up, would I be okay never having any of this? Like, there is a big part of me that just wants to be a mom, that just wants to cook dinner, I want to be the one to take the kids to school and pick them up and volunteer and do all of that. So at the same time, when I'm building this huge empire, it's almost like the train has started and there's no slowing it down.
Yeah.
Right? It's just an uncontrollable train at this point. But there is a huge part of me that almost wishes it never even started in the first place. For real.
I'm gonna start crying. Thank you. That's a very unfiltered answer if I've ever heard one. Success comes at a sacrifice. We all know this. It's what we're willing to sacrifice in that exchange, because we all have sacrifices that we have to go through to get to that ultimate, what we feel is a dream or a goal. Like, I get it. I totally understand. I think you're a great mom. You're building generational wealth for those kids. So
I mean, that's
Yeah,
right. The wealth is important, and, you know, giving them things I never had is important. But you know, the other struggle with that is they never have to ask for anything. They never have to want for anything.
yeah.
The polar, like, what am I actually creating? I mean, that's a whole other, right? There's so much to dissect when it comes to everything that we've talked about on such a surface level. I am trying to be a good role model and show them what it's like to build a business and have good work ethic and do right by people, and they see it. But, you know, there's that battle between wanting to give them what they want because I didn't have it.
yeah. I mean, and that's something I see, moms struggle with, all the time. Am I going too far
Yeah.
to the opposite? And I think there's the story of the twin boys that was raised by the alcoholic father. And one grows up to be a doctor and, do great things. And the other one grows up to be an alcoholic. And they were interviewed, and each of them said, the reason I ended up the way I did is because I watched my father. So I think that, you have a burning desire within yourself that, you can't temper that flame, but so much, because it's going to come out. My last question before I close shop, and this might be another one that you say, Linda, you're getting too deep. I can't answer this stuff. Yola's going to yell at me later, like, you hit her with too many hard questions. That's me. Sorry. You can check it. What is, at the end of the day, when you've reached your retirement years, what is Dana Nesen's legacy? Ooh. And if you can't answer it, we can schedule a second interview.
I mean, if you're just talking about like in this industry, because I don't really
know anything. You can use the safe word too.
What was that? I already forget what it was.
It's an animal. It's an animal.
Platypus?
Yes. Okay. All right.
Well, on that note.
I mean, one day, I don't know what the legacy looks like. I think the legacy is building itself brick by brick every year. That it's in my launch party, I was talking about connecting dots, and every dot leading to where you are right now. Mm-hmm. You can only see them looking backwards. You can't see them looking forwards. And so because of that, I can't see what that looks like until I get there and then look back and, be able to reflect on everything that you've created. There's already going to be so many things that are going to happen that I have no idea is coming.
Yeah.
All I can do is continue my path and teach and build and hopefully inspire other people to do the same.
And you'll be ready for it. Whatever comes your way, you're going to be, you're going to be ready for it. But Yola, if you don't have anything else, I think we should give Dana just a few minutes to let people know how to contact her if they decide that they want to be trained directly. If you are hiring, you can go ahead and put that out there as well.
Well, before I do, and I appreciate that, I would love to just say very quickly that this has been one of the best interviews I've ever been a part of. Honestly, I
really make me cry,
because every time I've been on a podcast or an interview, it's always just work, right? It's always work. What did you do before? What are you doing now? What's your script like? Like it's pretty much just cookie cutter, right? Rinse and repeat. And I have really just deeply, deeply appreciated the opportunity to have this type of conversation. And I really hope that the people that follow you appreciate it too, because this is the type of stuff that people want to hear. So
yeah, thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. And hopefully you come back as well.
If the people want me back, then absolutely.
There's a place for you on our platform for sure. You just let us know when.
So the good news is that I can hire in all the states now, where I only used to be in 17. So if you are interested in working with Empower Life Group, you can Well, you could email me, dana@empowerlifegroup.com. My website's not up yet. It'll be up in about hopefully 10 or 15 days, empowerlifegroup.com. You can follow me on YouTube at Final Expense Telesales, Instagram at Final Expense Telesales, and that's pretty much it. I'm not hard to find.
That's for sure.
Just to make sure we get it correct, spell your last name, just so when they're looking, they don't type in like, you know, the famous Nesen. The more
N-E-S-E-N?
famous Liam.
N-E-S-E-N, Nesen?
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so the famous Neeson's N-W-E, right? S-E-N.
I don't know. The movie star Liam Neeson is who I was talking about. But
Random.
Dana, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, please.
We already made it. We already made the agreement, so we're good on that too.
I'm gonna stop recording.